So the power just came back on. Fire's still going. Lights are on. Shit, the internet's back. And almost immediately, everything goes back to normal. That's just how fast that it happens, right? 1 minute, people are uneasy. The next minute, they forget that there was ever a problem. And that right there is something that I think is worth talking about today. Most people don't realize exactly how dependent they are on all the systems, right? Until those systems begin to flicker. And I'm not saying fail, just flicker. A brief outage, a disruption that's inconvenient but not catastrophic. And in that short window, you get a glimpse of reality. I mean, you see what people rely on, and you see what they don't really know how to do anymore. It really shows you what assumptions that were quietly holding everything together. But the moment the lights come back on, people, they mentally reset, right? Crisis averted, lesson ignored. That's human nature. I mean, we are wired, right, to return to comfort just as fast as we possibly can because comfort feels like safety. But comfort isn't the same thing as resilience, right? Because comfort has a cost if you rely on it too much. Systems, they don't fail all at once, right? And they don't usually collapse in this big dramatic fashion. They give warnings. They stutter, a little bit of lag. They start to flicker, right? And those moments, those are invitations. They're chances to notice maybe what you're leaning on too heavily. And if you ignore those signals, you don't get caught by surprise later. No, what happens is you get caught unprepared. Power came back on. That's good. But the fire being lit earlier, that wasn't a mistake. That wasn't panic. That was just readiness. There's a big difference between reacting out of fear and responding out of preparation. Fear scrambles, right? Just chaotic. Preparation, it stays calm. And readiness, it doesn't just turn off because things start to feel comfortable again for you. No, that's where most people, they really get it wrong. They treat preparedness like it's a temporary mode. It's something that they switch on during a crisis and then shut it off the moment that things improve. But real readiness is a baseline. It's just how you live. I mean, this applies to more than electricity. It applies to money. I mean, people live paycheck to paycheck, and it's not because they're irresponsible, but because convenience has trained them to believe that tomorrow is going to look like today. I mean, that applies to health, because people, especially today, they outsource their strength, right? Their mobility. They outsource their resilience, and they do it until a small injury or illness, it just suddenly changes everything. You know, I mean, let's apply it. We can apply it to work, right? You look at careers that are built on one fragile system that feels stable until the system changes, or the market shifts, or maybe some rules move overnight. You know, I think it's the same thing with relationships, because people assume that connection will always be there until stress reveals what was never reinforced. Because most people, they don't prepare for hardship. They don't. They prepare for convenience. They optimize for maximum ease, speed, and that comfort, man. I mean, because people assume that tomorrow will look like today. And most of the time, you know what? They're right. but they're right until they're not. And when that assumption breaks, it's not the event itself that hurts, it's the shock, right? The hard road isn't about expecting disaster. No, it's about not being shocked when things stop working perfectly. I mean, you got to build habits, skills, you got to find new systems that don't collapse the moment that comfort disappears. I mean, it's about being able to sit quietly with uncertainty, right? Without immediately reaching for a distraction, some panic, or blaming something else. The power coming back on isn't the lesson. The lesson this morning was the quiet moment before it did. The fire lit without urgency. The house staying warm with the wife and kids sleeping. There was no scrambling, no drama. Not because nothing could go wrong, but because something had already been done correctly, already been done right. That's what competence looks like. Not toughness for show, not loud, boisterous confidence, not fear-driven preparation. It's just quiet readiness. I mean, it's the kind that doesn't need to announce itself. It's the kind that it really looks boring. It really does, until you need it. So when the lights come back on, we don't just celebrate the relief. And you can't just rush to forget the discomfort. You have to ask yourself what you learned in the dark. You know, what assumptions did you expose that you hold? What dependencies do you have that were revealed to you? I mean, there's gaps, but there are things you usually ignore. Because the hard road isn't about when things are going to break. It's about whether you were ready before they actually did, and whether you choose to remember the lesson once everything feels normal again. Yeah, this is another hard road hour. Beautiful fire, beautiful morning. And once again, I gotta go to work.